Okay, so when I was editing the original feed, there was 20 minutes of my audio that was gone, and you were just like, yeah. And so once I got that taken care of, I got it lined back up, and then there was 30-minute chunks of me saying something and you responding, but my part would speak for 5 seconds and then be like, so I deemed it kind of useless. We may try and see what we can find and put it in a bonus episode, but I think we got the curse of the Skinwalker, Amanda.
You got the curse.
I got the curse.
Warning. The topics discussed on this podcast are subject to adult themes and languages. We seek to unravel the unexplained and unknown. This is Encounters.
So, Amanda. I want you to give me that definition of Skinwalker that you got from that
Urban
website.
Dictionary. It's Urban Dictionary, everybody. So it says, Skinwalkers, a Navajo witch that takes the bones of the dead and uses them to create evil havoc among people they hate, otherwise known as werewolves, like Jacob on Twilight, but a little different and more secretive.
Just a little different.
Just a little
Just
different.
a little bit. Like a big O difference.
Right, I feel like, honestly, personally, I feel like skinwalkers are nothing like werewolves.
No.
I mean, the only thing that even puts them maybe in the same category is that they both change at night.
I mean, that they can be wolves. I mean, there's like stories from like Skinwalker Ranch where people have witnessed these like 7 to 8 foot tall werewolf men smoking cigarettes right next to wearing a pair of jeans right next to a motorcycle. Like, what's up?
Right. No,
so maybe I can see a little bit of the Jacob from Twilight, but
ew, I just realized...
Wait a minute.
Did you get it too? Or did it hit you at the same time as it hit me?
Is it because Jacob
They're
is
Native American?
It is just like Jacob from Twilight. It's not a little bit, it's a lot.
That's actually kind of funny.
That's horrible.
Urban Dictionary, I might give you a little more credit. Oh,
wow.
God.
Okay, well, the thing is, though, Jacob's clan comes from the Seattle area, whereas the Navajo did not come from the Seattle area. They came from your area, right? Isn't New Mexico in the Pueblo, like, Navajo area? Or is it Nevada?
I don't think it's New Mexico. I haven't met any Navajos. We have some Pueblos, but none of them are Navajo, to my knowledge. I mean, Urban Dictionary was pretty on point.
It was pretty on point, I have to admit.
Yeah, once you really think about it. Especially them back in the day. Like, if you're talking about skinwalkers back when they were, you know, transforming into animals to go spy on people, I feel like that's a little more like...
That's true.
Like a warrior type.
To really define the skinwalker, you have to kind of jump into the whole aspect of their religion centered around magic. I mean, you have the medicine man, and then you have a whole subsection that specifically deals with the dark arts. And that's broken down by Clyde Cluckonen in his book Navajo Witchcraft into 4 separate categories known as the witchery way, the wizardry way, the sorcery way, and then frenzy witchcraft, which is also like disease witchcraft, prostitution witchcraft, other just random elements that they couldn't put. It's like the miscellaneous category.
It's not one drawer just full of stuff.
Right. But even amongst his research, it's specifically the witchery way that the skinwalker falls into. And I think this is where the werewolf idea, because they are considered were animals because they shift. into the different skins.
Yeah. See, because when I feel like you define a skinwalker, I feel like shapeshifter more than werewolf.
I'll give you shapeshifter, absolutely. I don't feel like well, as we've come to find out, it's not a disease. The person that becomes a witch seeks out to become a skinwalker. Usually you don't see people, well, I mean, after Twilight you did, but most of the time you don't see people run around being like, I want to be a werewolf. Someone find a werewolf to scratch me and curse me. Like,
Right.
So, what is
Yeah,
it? Is it lycanthropy that's considered a disease, whereas being a skinwalker is like sought after to be like the ultimate witch?
Yeah, I think so. Because this is ultimate power. In this culture, this is like, you reach the pinnacle when you become a skinwalker. This is it.
The term skinwalker, what is that word in Navajo?
Oh, Lord.
Naaldlooshii?
Yeah.
Naaldlooshii, which means in Navajo to go on all fours or wolf. It's actually a specific ritual that has to take place to become a skinwalker. And the Navajo people don't like to talk about it because they believe that to speak of it kind of brings it to you. I mean, even if you dive into the depths of Reddit, you're going to find someone that's like, hey, you know, the moment that you put this out there, they know about you.
Right.
They could come find you.
The big thing in their culture, they believe that the skinwalkers walk among them. They don't really ever know who it is, and so they don't talk about it because they don't want the skinwalkers to know that they're even speaking to anyone about it.
I mean, some of the encounters that I read about in Cluckhonen's book, it says that even the elderly don't like to go to massive ceremonies or dances because the mass amount of people means that the likelihood of a witch being there is higher. And so they just much rather stay away from the witch because they could even get you with a look.
Right.
And it's crazy.
And I guess we need to be clear that, like, skinwalkers are evil.
Yes.
That's why people are, and like witches, this is going down like a dark path. So these things are not going to bring any good. They're very scary. They tend to want to scare people, want to make people uncomfortable, even to kill people. So that's a big reason that the elders don't want to be around it, because like he was saying, with a look, like you're done for.
Yeah, and it's really going back to that sense of what the Navajo culture sees them as. The medicine man is the good person, the witch is the bad person. Live like the medicine man, be good, do no harm. Don't live like the witch, don't be greedy, don't try and pursue things just because you want. Don't be envious, I don't know. Some of the stories that happen at these witch sabbats are quite graphic. And I'll save you them because I had to read them. So if you want to read them, pick you up a copy of the book, because some of them are quite graphic. But to become a skinwalker, you have to commit, what was it, the most...
ultimate, like, sin.
The ultimate sin. And there's a lot of
debate. Maybe not sin, but like the most, what is the word? Maybe not sin. Evil. Like the most
evil act.
Yes, exactly.
The most evil act imaginable. And there's some debate on what this is, because being an oral tradition, this group of the Navajo might say something different than this group that was raised on a different region of wherever they were living. But the consensus is that you have to kill someone you love. Usually someone close to you, a relative, a family member, a sibling.
Mom, grandmother, somebody who means a lot to you. Which I can kind of understand, because if you're gonna go to the dark side, I mean, that's some pretty evil stuff, man.
There's an ultimate sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And from that moment on, you start to learn how to shift skins. And that means they usually appear, in the form of a bear, an owl, a fox, a wolf,
Coyote.
a coyote,
And a crow.
Yeah. There's some debate on whether they have to have the skins or that they can just transfigure at will. There's also debate on what they look like when they're not fully transfigured. There's people that say that you can look out into a field, and if you're with a group of 10 people and you spot a skinwalker, not all 10 of you will see the same thing if 10 of you see anything at all.
Yeah, and they're always kind of misfigured, they say, when it's a skinwalker. It doesn't ever look quite right. Like the legs will be long or the nose will be, it just won't look right. That's why a lot of people still say there's a lot of skinwalkers walking around, because you'll see like videos of these animals kind of just like, oh my god, what is that?
Oh, speaking of, we'll post a link to one of the YouTube videos that Amanda and I came across that was a like 2017 trail cam that catches this weird looking like shadow wolf that just kind of emerges out of nowhere. And it's really weird because you see this German Shepherd-like dog interacting with a man that's walking down the street, and the dog, it looks like it's either attacking or playing, but the man is not having it at all, and like ends up running away. And then right as it comes into focus, two cars pass, and as these two cars pass, this like shadowy wolf looking like creature that's really emaciated, it looks really freaky, walks into frame. And my mom was watching it, and she said she saw another dog that kind of just walks to the side, but I didn't notice that at all.
I saw that too.
And then the German Shepherd dog runs up to this shadow creature, and it's just like the oddest exchange. He's neither playing nor trying to fight it, and it just kind of snarls a little bit and then walks out of frame.
Yeah, the poor dog is scared.
Yeah, it looks like it could be maybe a coyote. It's not as big as a wolf, I wouldn't think, but when you look at the creature, you make that determination, because I sure as hell don't want to see it. Ever.
It was weird. It's definitely weird. But since those skins are associated with skinwalkers, it's really, really taboo for anyone in the Navajo tribe to wear those skins. So, because if you're seen with them, they're automatically going to think you're a skinwalker and probably go about trying to destroy you.
Exactly. I mean, it kind of, the same mentality that we see with the Puritans and Salem, we kind of have in this culture, except they have a deeper fear. It's not like they're dragging people out and calling them skinwalkers and like burning them in the square. But if there is a skinwalker attack within the tribe, it has been reported that they will go after this thing. A lot of the encounters are them chasing after a wolf and shooting the wolf, and then walking up later to find that there's a wounded Navajo man sitting there laying on the ground.
Which is crazy.
And then they have no more issues.
Yeah.
There's also other ways that they say you can get rid of skinwalkers or fight off skinwalkers. There's the discovery aspect. Like if you call someone out on being a skinwalker and know their like true name and everything, it's said that the skinwalker will die in 2 days because any curse they put on you will reverse and be put back on them. And there's prayer circles. There's, of course, ceremonies and blessings, almost like exorcisms of sorts. Exorcism's the wrong word. We can't apply Christian or Catholicism to the religion. It can't even put religion to the spirituality of the indigenous people of America. It's so much more, transcended than what we would do. They believe a lot of spirit earth, the first man, the first woman, and one of the most interesting tales I actually remember reading was when first man and first woman came up to the earth out of the ground, and they brought all their livestock and whatnot, and then they forgot something. And it's really cryptid because it's just like first woman and first man forgot something, so they went down to bring it up. And they gave it to this, and they gave it to that, and then they gave it to Mr. Rattlesnake, but he had no hands, so he had to hold it in his mouth. What the gift was death, and from this gift, we're given the Skinwalker.
Which is, I find very, very interesting. Because from, like, the readings I got, it's very much like Skinwalkers are out to cause mayhem and tragedy a lot to me, which is, I lost my train of thought. I'll be honest, I totally lost where I was going.
Well, it's also, like, they're known to be paid hands as well.
Yeah.
Like, people can go and say, hey, I'm pissed about this person having something, so here's some money, make their life hell. And the Skinwalker will do it because, I mean, if you're throwing cash down, why not?
But they're also willing to take cash from the other side. If you figure out that you're cursed,
they have no loyalties. Exactly.
Yeah, then you gotta go to the, the healer or whoever to get this curse lifted. So it's a way to make money.
There's also some,
way.
like, reports where they work in tandem, right?
Yeah. No, it's all about power. So, and with that comes money sometimes. So
sometimes with power, you get a little money.
Some people like power in other ways.
Right.
I don't think it's just about money with like Skinwalkers or even like medicine people who kind of help out. You know what I mean? It's all about the power.
Exactly. We watched that YouTube interview of.
It was very interesting.
Chief. Was it?
I don't remember, and I don't really think we should say its name anyway.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, there's an interesting interview with a chief Navajo elder on YouTube where these two cryptid hunters sat down with him, and they really treat this thing like it's a cryptid. But the more and more you dive into what they are not cryptids. They are humans, and, well, not even humans at that point. They're like celestial beings. And you can find these encounters everywhere. Like, pull it up on Reddit. Read about it.
You're right. The stories, like, the more and more you read these stories and hear about these stories, the more and more you realize how much they feed off of fear. Which was interesting last time you put them in the same category as shadow people because they're both kind of really, like, into scaring people.
Well, and I read an article today that linked shadow people to fucking greys.
That doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me that all of these things aren't linked.
Because if you dive deeper into Skinwalkers, you get to Skinwalker Ranch, which leads you to all the UFO activity. So what if shadow walkers and shadow people, or shadow walkers, shadow people and Skinwalkers work in tandem? Maybe enemies?
Maybe. I don't know. I just find it very, very creepy how much, like, fear plays such a big role in all of these things. Like, the more and more we're getting into it, the more and more it's just like these things want to scare you. Some want to, like, hurt and kill, but most of the time it's like, we want to scare the absolute crap out of you. We want you to know that we are in charge.
Exactly. All of the audio issues we had, all the editing stuff that I just went through trying to get our last recording of Skinwalkers, that I'm not gonna lie, put me on edge.
Yeah. Well, and the same thing happened to me when we were talking about shadow people, if you remember.
I do remember.
All my audio stuff started happening. It's very interesting. It's a little freaky, but we do this because we're passionate about it. We will find the answers.
We'll find something.
And it's kind of, I don't know if it's happened to you much, but it's interesting, like, the more and more I've talked to people about this podcast, the more and more people have come to me with things like I met a medium the other day, like a couple of weeks ago. Just my friend was telling me experiences they've had with, like, the paranormal. It's just all around us a lot, and it's when you start kind of seeing it, it starts kind of freaking you out. The
people that usually walk up to me in Chicago, I'm not too excited to talk to on the street randomly.
One's gonna be a Skinwalker one day.
I bet they're all Skinwalkers. That's how I just keep walking. I don't talk to anybody. I'm like, no, I gotta get somewhere. Don't look up. Don't look up. That's the advice. Don't look it in the eye.
Yeah, just like most of these things. Don't look at it.
Exactly. Just like everything that's scary. Don't look at it.
Right. But especially with these Skinwalkers, because I've been reading that they can kind of take control of your body. And
what?
even like if you make eye contact with them, they can take control of your body.
I'm not down for that.
No.
Possession? Or is it like
They didn't.
hypnotism, or do they throw a potion on you? Because I know they have that death powder shit.
No, it's not that death powder. It's literally making eye contact with them. It seems like possession, but like you said, I don't want to like tie.
Oh, see, you can't use these theological words to apply to something that is not anywhere in the same realm.
Right.
It's like trying to find out where the zodiac fits with Christ. It's just not.
Right.
It's not gonna work. Maybe it does. I don't know. They use the North
I don't
Star.
know.
Maybe it's the Tropic of Cancer. That was stupid. I'm sorry. No, this death powder, though. This is really interesting.
Yeah.
It was one of the things that was brought up in the YouTube interview we're talking about. But also, it's brought up in Cluck-Honen's book from the 1930s. And it's like this powdered corpse. It's described in the book as like peelings of specific portions of the body that are then burned and like buried and then made into this crazy chemical X-like stuff and turned into a powder, put in a bag, and when it's thrown on you, it's thought that it like causes you to almost instantaneously die. The way it's made out in the YouTube interview that we watched, it's like the most immediate bad thing will happen to you.
Yeah. The example he gave was like if you're sitting there eating popcorn and then someone throws this powder on you, you'll instantly choke on the popcorn. So no one will even think of like this of any other cause of death. They just think, oh, it's an accident, you choked on popcorn.
Exactly. And like, how do you seek help for that? You can't just run off to your medicine man. You're choking on popcorn.
Right.
The descriptions in the book are like when the powder's thrown on you, your jaw locks immediately, and unless you find someone to help you, you will die within hours.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know.
biohazardous weapons right here. Biowarfare, telling you.
That's what I'm saying.
Don't let people throw shit on you.
I don't think anyone's letting anyone throw anything on them. But they do say that in the video he talked about bitter medicine, which you would have to take immediately after getting this stuff thrown or coming in contact with this stuff.
And there's also another medicine that's like more antiquated. It's called gall medicine, which now that I'm thinking about it made a lot of sense, but I had to look really hard to figure out what the fuck that meant. And there's specific gall medicines that are for specific things. Like with Skinwalkers, you want to use eagle and a couple other animals. Eagle I just really remember. And it's the gallbladder that's been like left out in the sun to dry, mixed with some herbs.
That sounds delicious, doesn't it?
It does.
Man, wouldn't you be excited to take that?
Yummy.
Oh.
And you're good, but
right? You just gotta swallow that stuff.
you just gotta get that down with lockjaw.
Right. Oh.
And, well, what else is there? Do you have something you specifically want to talk about?
I think you should go back and tell them that history of the downfall of the relationship between the Navajos and the Skinwalkers.
Ooh, okay, guys, gather around. Story time. There is this weird, unspoken history. And this is the only part of our episode that was completely unusable from our last recording. And we found some, like, weird interviews between the YouTube, between the reading, between other just, like, Reddit threads and other things that we've read that state that they haven't always had conflict with the Skinwalkers. In fact, it's thought that when the Navajo people were actually in native North America, the Skinwalkers were actually Navajo braves Like, it was something to be attributed to, because you would send your best people to become these magical creatures that would help defend you and would transform into animals to spy on the neighboring camps. And that, they say, played to their advantage, especially with the invading Spanish and Mexico. And when that started to uprise, the Skinwalkers helped fight with the Navajos. But when the Europeans moved in took over, they got into a weird debacle, and everything that we found says that at that point in time, the Skinwalkers said, nope, we're not helping you, and the Navajo said, nope, you're bad. And there's actually reports from their march back from Fort Sumner where there's a group of like 30, 40 native Navajos kicking up dirt and causing a ruckus in a town, or so is perceived. Like, information reaches these Navajo men that this is going down, and so they go out in the 1800s and round up all of these men and kill them. One of them being the guy who was killing everybody's, like, uncle, I believe. He was like, no, done. And it was called the Navajo Witch Purge of the 1880s, I believe. Look it up. It's crazy. Just like Salem, we had internal conflict where people were trying to decimate what they thought was a bad thing. And from the descriptions of it, it's pretty bloody. But nobody talks about it. And it's every report after that it seems that the people's memory almost shifts to the Skinwalker becoming an enemy.
Yeah.
And almost just, we're not going to talk about it at all. Because if you ask a native person, they're not going to tell you any of this information. And in fact, please do not seek out a native person and ask them these questions.
Not on Twitter, not on Facebook.
Maybe, if they are good friends of yours, maybe ask them in person, in private, not out loud.
And they won't tell you anything.
Exactly. But do not get on Facebook. Do not go out to wherever and just find someone that looks like a Native American and ask them about Skinwalkers. Because one, it's really nobody's business but theirs. And if you want to know, there's research out there that you can find. Number two, you don't want to get into this shit because this shit is dark. So just listen to the episode. If you want more info, go in, by all means, you are your own person, but I would not.
But don't let the Skinwalker find you.
Exactly. I think we should talk about your friend. He wouldn't tell you anything at all either, would he?
No, he didn't. He told me he wasn't allowed to talk about it, which I respect.
Yeah, no, it comes out of that culture.
And I didn't really ask. I didn't skip up to him and be like, can you tell me all this stuff? He's just like, I told him about the podcast. He's like, yeah, that's cool, but I can't talk about it. I can't talk about any of that.
You're like, okay, got it. Yeah, no, don't want you in trouble.
Yeah, that's it. I don't need any more information.
Exactly. It's also, I think, important to talk about some of the, do you have any encounter specifics?
I remember hearing a story about these guys walking home from a party and a Skinwalker chasing them through this field and scaring the ever-living crap out of them. Pretty much anytime, at first they were walking and they heard something behind them. And then suddenly this thing started laughing. So the guys were like, well, let's go. And they started running. And that's when the Skinwalker appeared in front of them and was laughing and freaking them out, then disappeared. And they said as they're running through this field, they could just hear the Skinwalker just all around them, just laughing and chasing after them and just appearing places. Finally, when they got to their grandparents' house, they told them what happened. Their grandparents listened attentively, told them of other encounters that they had with the Skinwalker. He couldn't remember the grandparents' encounters, but he was saying that they had told them other stories as well. And later that night, the cousin woke him up and said that the Skinwalker was outside of the house, and they could hear it outside of their house. So they got a gun, and when they opened the door, it was gone.
Fuck all that. No.
Right. And a lot of the encounters that were talked about is that the Skinwalker would be outside of people's houses, knocking on their doors, banging on their window, just like appearing, just doing a lot of stuff to scare
That
them
sounds just like the
again.
Black-Eyed Kids.
And shadow people.
And shadow people, but like specifically showing up to your yard, knocking on your door, wanting to get your attention, wanting you to come out, wanting you to be a part of the experience.
Yeah.
Shadow people just want to come in and be the experience. So like, hey.
Well, some, it depends.
What you doing?
You know?
I'm gonna fucking freak you out. Whereas the rest are like, you need to let me in. You need to let me in.
No, it's true. But some of those shadow people want you to know that they're watching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's just all like, for me, it's all connected. These things want you to know that they're here. And that's the same with Skinwalkers to me. That's how they get a lot of their power.
Exactly. And if you really want to fucking robo-trip on the aspect of what a Skinwalker is, look up Skinwalker Ranch in Utah. It's one of the most well-researched, documented UFO sites in the country at this point. I mean, other than Roswell, I would imagine. But, like, it's a paranormal hotspot as well. And we've got this weird blending of supernatural, paranormal, and extraterrestrial elements that happen. There's even videos I've seen of Skinwalkers ripping through, like, portals. It's like you see this blue little portal open on Skinwalker Ranch, and then this little shadow creature comes out, the portal closes, and like you see this like wolf kind of stroll off, which would lead to the aspect of being interdimensional travelers, much like Greys and what we thought shadow people were in episode 2.
Exactly.
And it's also crazy at Skinwalker Ranch because you get to the actual house portion, and there's like latches and switches everywhere to keep doors from opening and closing and slamming shut. Everything was bolted down. There were 2 stakes out by the front door for 2 giant guard dogs. Then you get to the like farm ranch area where the cattle are. Skinwalker Ranch was actually investigated twice for the amount of cattle mutilations that took place because of extraterrestrial activity. They were investigated for animal cruelty because the sheer amount of bodies of these cattle. And if you go and look at some of the reports, you can see the cruelty they're talking about. One of the cows was reported to have a hole in it that went all the way from the rectum to the brain. One like straight shot, like barrel, which is cruel. I can see that.
Right.
Then you get to the aspect of the Skinwalkers, the families that lived on that farm before the scientists came in and took it over and were looking into research for it, encountered several large wolves that they said seemed really docile towards the family at first. And then they decided they started wanting to take things. And I think it's also from the Skinwalkers at Skinwalker Ranch that we get the story of the 2 wolves in jeans smoking cigarettes. So, there's plenty of reasons to check out Skinwalker Ranch. It's got everything. But it really lends to the aspect of whether these things are celestial, extraterrestrial, cryptid, human witch. The Navajo people also claim that the land that the Skinwalker Ranch is on is like badlands. Not like cemetery or like bones buried there, like death is in that valley.
Yeah.
Some of the people think there's portals in the hills at Skinwalker Ranch. It's actually in the contract for the house that the researchers can't go past a certain point because of native principles, which is good. Respect those boundaries, because Lord knows we don't need an Armageddon of Skinwalkers.
Yeah, I think that's everything you need to know. Pretty much.
So,
Skinwalkers. Witches.
Skinwalker,
You gotta
Navajo
be a
Witch,
Skinwalker.
could be an interdimensional traveler,
Could be.
could be a werewolf.
Could be like Jacob from Twilight.
But the one thing we know is that they are bad. Or at least that's what we've been given. We don't have any encounters of a good Skinwalker. So if you're out there, let us know. But you better be
We
good.
will
Don't
gladly
lie.
tell your
Don't
story.
lie. If your name is Loki, stay back, Skinwalker. But if you want to come out and be nice, say hello to Amanda, but not to me, Amanda. And yeah, so next week we're going to be talking about.
Oh, is that me? Myrtle's Plantation.
Myrtle's Plantation, yes. We're going to be talking about the spooky secrets of the mysterious haunted plantation in Louisiana.
Right. Yes, I love Louisiana hauntings. I find them very interesting.
Yeah, there's so much to go off of in Louisiana. There's so much history, so much culture. So I'm excited to see what happens. Why is that plantation so special to you?
I don't know. It's just it's probably one of the most well-documented hauntings. Anytime I've seen any kind of like ghost hunting show or Travel Channel show or anything like that, and they go to Myrtle's Plantation, something always happens. It's very, like, I don't know. I'm just always been connected.
No, I'm excited. I'm about to binge watch every single ghost hunting, spooky, paranormal episode on the Travel Channel for it. So I'm ready.
There's a lot. There's plenty of information out there. There's pictures. There's so much. So I'm excited to talk about it.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to be it for us. If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe to our Facebook page. You can find us at Encounters a Paranormal Experience on Facebook. You can also download us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. If anything, feel free to reach out to us at encountersthepodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, this is Dakota.
I'm Amanda.
Take it easy. I don't know.
Don't ever. You really got to stop with these catchphrases. Just say goodbye, Dakota.
Bye.
Just say goodbye. Bye.